So we are just days away from the start of the new Formula One season. We're back here in Bahrain at the go-kart track once again. It is really, really windy outside. Quite a surprising sandstorm as we were driving into the track today. Could make it quite interesting over the race weekend. I'm joined once again by Alex Kalinauckas, Autosport's Grand Prix editor. And we've asked you guys on Twitter to send in some of your hot takes ahead of the new season. We're going to have a look at them, give our thoughts, and tell you what we think is going to happen in F1 this year. So Alex, we're going to start with Constructors Championship. Now, boldly, our Twitter followers have been sending in their 1 to 10 predictions. There's general consensus, it's sort of 2 or 3 teams who are at the top. I would say mainly 2. It's Ferrari and Red Bull who are really coming through here. Lorraine on Twitter reckons it'll be Ferrari, Mercedes, then Red Bull at the top. Dennis reckons Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, the Mercedes in 4th place. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, that's Kai on Twitter. Right now, where would you put your money for the Constructors Championship this season?
My money for the Constructors Championship this season, I think Red Bull. 2 reasons. 1, top testing, favourites going into the season. Sergio Perez's second year with the team. It was sort of him letting the side down last year. Because of the second year, that more progression, he's got that much more experience, he's got the speed, he's got the capabilities. Red Bull for the Constructors.
What did you make of that take for Mercedes to finish behind McLaren in the Constructors? Can we see that happening? Mercedes have won 8 in a row. Would they really drop to 4th?
It's bold. That is pretty bold. I think that is a bit too bold, just because we know with McLaren they've got the new their wind tunnel. It's not been developed yet, or sorry, it's not even finished being built yet. So the facilities that will take them, or they hope will take them to the top, aren't quite online just yet. McLaren beating Mercedes is a stretch, but equally, Mercedes, when you think about it, if it looks like their testing form is going to harm them at the start of the year, they've got to go into it thinking maybe we won't in the Constructors this year.
One thing that was clear through the predictions is that from, I guess, sort of 5th to 10th, it can be basically anyone. Like I've seen Alfa Romeo in one prediction is going to finish 5th and another is going to finish 10th. Same for Williams, that applies to as well. Does that show how close that sort of midfield is right now? And it isn't really a midfield anymore, is it? If it's like 6 teams all the way from being in Q3 to being bottom of the table in Q1.
There is clearly no, at the moment, or how it seemed in testing, there is no clear back marker squad, so that's something. I've heard Haas could be up there in 5th. Alfa Romeo, we know that the Ferrari powertrain or the Ferrari engine they're saying it's on the par again with Mercedes and Red Bull. Yeah, the other intriguing thing is AlphaTauri, very closely linked to Red Bull. If the Red Bull is the class of the field, you'd expect AlphaTauri to be up there correspondingly. It's a very well run organisation. I've even heard they could be up there with Mercedes this weekend in Bahrain. In terms of like a set prediction from like 5th to 10th, I mean, that's almost impossible to say. Yeah, I think it'd be very, very close. I don't think there'll be any obvious outsiders at this stage. And I think fine margins, random races. I mean, when it's such a close fight, any team could go from 9th to 5th, from 5th to 10th. And we like to see it, don't we?
We do, yeah. Massively exciting for the season ahead. And you mentioned Haas there. And when we ask people for who's going to get a surprise win this year, I'm going to be very bold, says Harry, and say Mick Schumacher. And then we've got Anton L. Gen on Instagram, K-Mac. Is a Haas victory? Is that maybe a bit too bold of a prediction for the coming year?
Yeah, I think it is. I can't see Mick Schumacher or Kevin Magnussen winning races unless you get a sort of Hungarian Grand Prix situation. But even then, I wouldn't expect that to be the team. I just don't see it being Haas. I think they will score points. I think it'll be a much better season than it was last year. But I'd like to see it, but I just don't think it will happen.
I think that's quite realistic. And another prediction for a shock winner was Fernando Alonso. At Cider Real says Alonso in some wet chaos race. That to me seems a little bit more realistic. Who is your pick though for a shock race winner in 2022?
Does Lando Norris count as a shock race winner? I mean, he'd be a first race winner.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, it just feels like a logical extension. But I think if you're going to go back down the grid, why not Alex Albon? Why not have Williams back on the top step of the podium again? It's equally as unlikely as Haas doing it, but he's so rapid. That team's going forwards. Yeah, why not have that as a bold prediction?
I'm going to go for an existing race winner and say Pierre Gasly. I think he might get his 2nd victory in Formula One. Yeah, I think that would be a shock result, giving AlphaTauri. But again, if they are on a par with Mercedes, what a story that would be. So we skipped over World Champion. We'll now come back to that now. Rel Harun says a tussle between Leclerc or Sainz for the championship for Ferrari. That would be a great story. Timox Esp says Russell. George Russell, his first season with Mercedes. But who is your pick for 2022 World Champion?
Got to be Max Verstappen. Years more experience. We think the Red Bull looks like the quickest car. I just think logically you have to go with Max. I think Lewis Hamilton would drag his way into a title fight, even if the Mercedes is off the pace and stays off the ultimate pace. Same with Russell. I don't see why he might not be able to hit the peaks that Lewis has hit in recent years, but he's an excellent driver. The Ferrari drivers are the big unknown. Neither of them have been in a title fight. They're both very, very good. I rate them both very, very highly. In fact, I think Carlos Sainz deserves to be rated higher. But yeah, I just think Max Verstappen world champion.
Interesting. I'm going to go a little bit out there. I'm going to say Charles Leclerc to win the World Championship. I think we're going to see a Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton title fight this year, and I think the development race is going to make things really spicy. It's really exciting to see how open this title fight could be. But okay, Verstappen, Leclerc, let's see if we're right at the end of the season. So we're going to continue our running theme at the front of the grid and say which team will get the most victories this season. At Wayfair says Red Bull with 10. It's quite specific. Lorraine again, she reckons it'll be between Ferrari and Red Bull. SB130 says Red Bull easily, but Ferrari, will overcome reliability issues to win a couple. Only one mention from Mercedes there, which is quite surprising. Where do you think? I mean, is it, if you're saying Red Bull have got the quickest car and Verstappen for the championship, would that indicate for the team with the most wins as well?
I think so. This is where Formula One sort of ruins all the fun, because we know how it works. The best team with the best car wins the most races and wins the championship. Logically, you'd put it on Red Bull. Don't want that to happen. Quite like it to be a nice healthy mix. Even if it's like, say, Mercedes gets back in on the action and they're quite evenly matched as teammates, they sort of take wins off each other. But I just think with the way we know Formula One goes, it's got to be Red Bull again.
Tying in with me thinking Leclerc will go for the championship, I'm going to say Ferrari for the most race wins. I think him and Sainz maybe a little bit more balanced than Verstappen and Perez. Again, I'm going to go with Ferrari for that one, I think, though. So now we're going to move on to which team will improve the most this season. And again, there's one team that's coming out quite a lot, and that's Haas. I think that run they did in testing with Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen, both really impressing on the final 2 days, has got a lot of people talking, and a lot of Ferrari-powered teams as well. Reese, he reckons Ferrari will go from third to top. Maybe Alfa Romeo and Haas will improve also. EGC songwriter Haas, I think at some point Magnussen will get a podium. Maybe that's a bold prediction. That's what we like to see. Which team are you going to say is going to be the most improved this year?
Right, so what makes this difficult is what we saw in testing, which is that, yes, the Ferrari powered cars have taken a massive step forward, but other than the works team, the Alfa Romeo car in testing, the Haas car in testing was breaking down, it seemed to be every 5 minutes. So if I had to pick a team to be most improved this year, it has to be Haas again, because they come from all the way from the back, well off the pace last year. It just is going to be better this year. And I think potentially the way some of the rival teams seem to be getting annoyed about, the close relationship between Haas and Ferrari, could even be as high as fifth, as I think I said earlier. So yeah, go on then, Haas most improved.
No, I'm going to agree with you. I think Haas, I don't know about the prediction for a podium, but I think a good haul of points for this season. Definitely a big step forward, and some good times coming for Haas this year. So we've looked at the most improved team. Now we're going to go to the flip side of that and say which team is going to have the most disappointing season. Jamie Hugill on Twitter, he says Alpine. Sidereal again says Aston Martin, too-match transition. Brandon reckons Alpine or McLaren. Where do you see things shaping up in terms of who's maybe taken a bit of a step back compared to last year, and who do you think will maybe have not such a good season this year?
Things are going to just not work out as a lot of teams want them to. Alpine and the Renault-backed group, well, they gave themselves like 3 seasons back in 2016 to be on the podium, to eventually be fighting for Winter World Championships, none of which has happened. So yeah, I had to say, I think if I was going to say a biggest disappointment, because I don't think they'll be fighting for the world title, Alpine.
Okay, and I think I'm on the same page for that one. Again, Alpine, they've been quite clear about this. I think 100 race plan. I think that it's definitely going to be a more challenging season for them. Maybe we were looking trackside, and sort of both of us think we're saying it wasn't looking as maybe hot as some of the other cars. So I'm going to agree with you. Alpine for tough season perhaps. So we've had a few drivers move teams for this season. Alex, which new driver at a new team do you think is going to perform best this season?
Got to be George Russell. I have so much faith, and I just think he's got the speed and the intelligence to back it up. And even if Mercedes is off the pace at the beginning, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if he can help the team build back and deliver wins, deliver maybe a championship challenge eventually, that serves him in even better stead.
Definitely. I think, George is going to have a very, very good season. I reckon Valtteri Bottas do quite well at Alpha as well. I think Alpha are a bit sort of inconspicuous during testing, but I reckon that Bottas and Alpha might have a pretty good season. I'm also really excited to see what Alex Albon can do back on the grid as well. I think it's, really good to see him get another chance. Freddie, he agrees on Bottas. He said Bottas to shine now out the shadow of Lewis Hamilton and can't go vroom fast. I assume like Formula One with a name like that. You reckon Russell can go for the championship. SB130 Albon gets a surprise top 10 or 2. So it's, I think it's going to be really interesting how they all get on with their new teams. Now we get on to the final prediction we asked you guys for, and this is probably the most open one. It is the boldest prediction for the 2022 Formula One season. Now, some of them are bold, some of them are a little less bold. An Internet Goblin says with 3 races to go, we'll have 4 drivers still in the World Championship fight. That'd be fantastic. Reckons there'll be a McLaren in that as well. Reese Young will have 6 different race winners from 4 different teams. Science will win at least 5 races and be double digits for podiums. Very good for him. Lucy Liu, Haas will get a podium. Perez will win more races than Russell. Albon to win a wet race, says Felix. Sainz will win 3 races, says Dom. Gasly will announce a move to Alpine for 2023 as well. lots of different takes in there. I mean, what's your bold prediction for this year? Is it on track? Is it off track?
So yeah, I had to have a long think about this, and it is sort of an off-track prediction. My bold prediction is that a world champion, not naming a specific one just now, but a world champion won't see out the season. They'll decide we're in a new era. My team isn't where I thought it was going to be. I don't want to be around for the whole rebuilding project. I don't necessarily want to do Formula One and motorsport anymore. So yeah, a world champion, whichever one, could even be Max, couldn't it? Could be, it won't be, but it could be. A world champion will not see out the season. They'll decide to retire instead.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, that I think would be a big story definitely for us to be covering on Autosport were that to happen. My bold prediction is more of a bit of a quirky one, but I'm going to say we're going to have a race where there's 3 drivers, all from the same country, finishing on the podium. So that has to be the UK, really. So I'm maybe thinking, a Lando Norris win, George Russell second, Lewis Hamilton third, something like that. It'd be the first time since 1983. Our editor, Kevin Turner, reliably informed us the other day. So that'd be quite a cool story. But yeah, that's my bold prediction for this year. Maybe not as bold as yours, but I think that's what's going to happen. Okay, so those are our predictions for the 2022 F1 season. Let us know what your thoughts on this year are in the comment section below, and be sure to stay tuned throughout the race weekend in Bahrain. I think, Alex, we're now going to do a spot of go-karting, which would be pretty good fun, and be sure to stay tuned through the rest of the race weekend.